Okay, everybody, so let's see, we're going to use sterling silver. I've got some fresh sterling silver and I've got some that's been cast a bit. So we'll set that aside. What we're going to do is we want to sand cast this piece right here. And it's got kind of a thin shank on it. So I'm going to make the shank a little bit heavier, and I'll show you how to do that in the clay. So the first thing we're going to do is move this. We have this right here. This is like a bottom plate. And another thing I've already done is I have an extension that goes on to the side pour flask, and it just gets, I just use black tape, electrician's tape, to hook it on there. And maybe down the road I'll actually reprogram my mill and we'll make a bigger one, but for now we're going to go with this. So what we're going to do is we take the tube here, which is a size 9, and it gets positioned in here. And then these are ridges that stand up, and what they do is they allow me to take this half of the flask and position it on there so that it's right in the middle. Then we're going to put the cornstarch on there and start adding clay. Now, I like to push it really well all the way around the outside. And then you could have a rawhide mallet or something else to hammer this. I don't have one here, so we're just gonna push it in. It will work just fine. And we're gonna scrape this off. We want to make sure this is nice and flat. When we pull this off, we have a size 9 half round impression, and it's centered and everything. That's important. So now this part's going to come off. I'm going to set that down, and we have this little contraption that I built. I'm just going to clean that extra clay off the channel there. We're going to line this post up with the center of this, and what we'll do is before we put the pattern on here, we're going to slide that down and make sure it fits in there correctly. Once we have that, then we can tighten these down. We want to get that secure in there. And pull this up. Then we have our pattern here. We're going to fit it on here. It's fairly taut. The way I do it is I have the bottom cut so that when it slides on here, it's nice and tight. And I line up the center of that with the hole here. And then we want to make sure we're kind of lined up between there. So I'm going to push that over a little bit. Make sure there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. And we'll add more cornstarch. And we'll add the cornstarch to here as well. And another way to check this to make sure it's straight up and down is from the side like this. So now we're going to fit that over. It's a lot easier when you don't have a camera in front of you. I'm going to slowly push it down. There, just like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the other half here, and like I say, we cleaned away the extra there because we want these two to sit flush together. we're going to cornstarch that again. Start filling this up. I really like to push it in there so that it's all the way around the edge. Could take something like this and pound on it. And then having a really flat scraper has worked good with this system. Make sure that's flat. You can even pick this up and brush that off. That was a close one, but I think we recovered okay. All right, we did. I learned something there. This definitely needs to be a little bit tighter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull the top off. And this side isn't so critical, but we've still got a great impression. So we're going to take and set this aside. And now we have this side here. Now what you want to do is if you tap on this a little bit, it kind of loosens it up. And we're going to put our fingers in the hole here. We're going to put our thumb on top of there. We're going to pull this straight up. Take your time. Now, as you can see, we got a wonderful impression there. And there's no clay stuck on here, so that's a really good sign. So now we can take this and set it aside. And we can also loosen this. And I like to take, and you're not going to be able to see this, but I like to turn it upside down and blow into there so that hopefully if there's anything that got in there, it's going to fall down. Okay, so this side, like I say, as long as this is scraped off here, is pretty much done. And the only thing we're going to do is we're going to set it aside, and we're going to take this. And with this, we're going to create what's known as a core. We're going to take the same clay, and we're going to pack it in there. And then it kind of helps if you tap on this. Sometimes it loosens it up and it drops right out. It's taking a while, but it is coming out. If it doesn't quite come out, then there's this right here. You can push it so that it frees itself. And you want to go around it. You want to make sure there's no little particles of clay. We're going to set that down. And when we do this, you can get a really good idea how thick this is right here, how much of an opening there is. And I like to make that bigger. So we pull this up. And if we use this, so we got two ways we could do it. We can use this. We can push in to the side, and we can make these bigger. This works really well. The other way it could be done is with like a round aluminum rod here. You can push that in. Just like that. So now, again, make sure there's nothing on here. We set that in. You can see we got it's much bigger here, and that's going to give us a better chance of getting a good casting. The other thing we want to make sure is that it's filled all the way down on both sides. Now I've kind of learned in the past that if we take just a little bit of clay here and we add it in here, it's going to keep it from sliding. You kind of learn this as you go, and I found that sometimes it slides. So we're going to press that in, and now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to come back to this one. Now with this one, we're going to take this side here, and right in the middle, we're going to push straight down. Pull that through. You never want to push from this side that way, because you can see what it did. It forced a whole bunch of clay to pop out. And if you did it from that side, you'd have a big mess. And at this point, you want to take a small pocket knife or some other tool, and we're going to cut the funnel where the metal's going to pour. And I like to make it fairly small and directly straight down. Nice taper. When I pour the metal in there, I want to make sure that it doesn't run into anything, and it knows pretty much right where it needs to go. And any edges I like to pat them down. So now we flip this over, and what we can do again, and I think we'll use this worked really well, we're going to enlarge this. Just like we did on the other side. But this will also, if you do it like this and push down, you can make it a little bit thicker. It's just lots of tricks we learn as we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these edges right here and round them, so that when the metal flows down, it flows down freely without hitting an edge. And so at this point, we look around, we don't have anything in the channel, so we can bring this back over, and we can take this side, and we can put it in place. You want to push down, make sure the two halves are nicely together. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this black tape, and because the step after this is going to involve a vacuum, we want to make sure that the seam here for the two sides of the flask is sealed, which means we also have to seal that square hole right there. Whoops, let me get it in the picture, sorry. So now we need two more little strips here. I tell you, it's so much easier when you don't have the phone in front of your face. Cover that one. And then we're going to cover this one. And at this point, I'm going to end this video because right now, this is going to go into a toaster oven, and I'm going to set it at 425 degrees, and it's going to sit in there for 10 minutes. And I just want to double check and make sure that this is nice and flat, because after it comes out of the toaster oven, this is going to sit on a vacuum table. All right. Thanks, everybody.